One of the most underestimated issues of trade agreements is represented by trade in equipment used for torture. We know that prohibition of torture is a well-established multi-level rule. It is meant to be a jus cogens norm. It is the subject matter of a dedicated UN convention adopted in 1984 and covering also inhuman and degrading treatment and punishment. And it is an absolute right under the European Convention of Human Rights and the Charter of Fundamental Rights. However, it is also well known that this obligation is often breached within the international community, but also at the European level, and that at times such breaches amount to deliberate and appalling crimes. So the European Union decided to tackle the trade in certain types of products and equipment. In 2005, the European Union strictly regulated trade in these types of equipment and products, such as, for example, gallows or electric chairs or lethal injection systems, stuff that can be used for capital punishment, torture, and cruel or inhuman and degrading treatment. The point is that the European Union recently amended its legislation on the matter. In 2019, the European Union adopted Regulation 2019-125 concerning trade in certain goods which could be used for capital punishment, torture, or other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. There are several items listed in the regulation, or I'd better say listed in annexes to the regulation. For example, Annex 2 contains items that cannot be traded. So it means that there is a prohibition of importation, exportation, transit, and those items cannot even be the subject matter of brokering services or trading activities. While if one focuses on Annex 3, then he or she will find the items that can be subject to trade, but only provided that a specific authorization was issued. It is also interesting to note that the regulation contains an autonomous definition of torture and an autonomous definition of other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. The European Union, alongside Argentina and Mongolia, decided to transpose this specific issue at a broader level, and for these reasons the Alliance for Torture-Free Trade was created. Now the alliance counts over 65 members, with more in the process of joining it. And in a joint communiqué at the ministerial, its members agreed to work to create a new instrument, such as a binding convention, to end the trade in the tools of torture or in the tools connected to other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. So basically the countries pertaining to the alliance commit themselves to take measures to control and restrict exports of such products, and they monitor trade routes and exchange information in order to put an end to this kind of trade. The UN General Assembly, yet in 2017, issued an important resolution which is not specifically dedicated to this kind of trade, but in the resolution the General Assembly of the United Nations stated that there is a need for the states of the international community to take appropriate effective legislative, administrative and other measures to prevent and prohibit the production, trade, export, import and use of equipment that has no practical use other than for the purpose of torture or other cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment. And basing on this point, the UN General Assembly adopted a specific resolution in 2019. It is the draft resolution towards torture-free trade, examining the feasibility, scope, and parameters for possible common international standards for the import, export, and transfer of goods used for capital punishment, torture, or other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment. In particular, under this resolution, the Secretary General of the United Nations has to seek the views of the states on such standards and to establish a group of experts. It is interesting to note that the European Union welcomed the resolution. This is not surprising. The interesting point is that the Council of the European Union will probably amend the guidelines on EU policy towards third countries on torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. That is expected to be done in September 2019 following inputs of the General Assembly resolution. Nevertheless, the resolution was not welcomed all around the world because there are many states which claim, specific issues concerning the content of the resolution. And some of those states are also trade partners of the European Union. For example, Japan, Vietnam, and Singapore. They claim, first of all, that in the resolution the notion of torture and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment or punishment encompasses death penalty. And according to those countries, putting torture and capital punishment on an equal footing is not in line with international law. Death penalty is something subject to internal affairs. It is a practice decided by national governments in the views of those countries. Furthermore, the resolution was perceived to be an attempt by the General Assembly to legislate and regulate international trade, while General Assembly is not the appropriate body to do that. And also, those states say that the resolution was adopted after very quick and informal consultation, and that did not allow for a fruitful discussion on the matter. Also, the establishment of a group of experts, which the Secretary General is called on to set up, should be conducted in an inclusive manner so that all the states' concerns can be duly considered.